12 o'clock. Are we ready to play today? All right. Here we go. Hey, on September 21st, before we get into the message, let me recap something and bring you into the reality we've just stepped into and are about to step into as a church. On September 21st, I shared with all of you that we were at an inflection point as a church. And what I showed with our great media team was a chart over the last 2 years. We looked at attendance, baptisms, number of first-time guests. And you could see that in the last 2 years, our church has doubled in size, but our staff was about the same size. Hey, Will Maraza, how you doing? It's just good to see you today. I know you love having conversations in front of the whole church just with me alone. You surprised me. Now I'm confident to preach. So we just said on that day that our staff hadn't grown, and I cast vision and said, guys, we need to pray for 5 specific roles that we start pursuing and searching for, and I'm here to update you today that we have hired 4 of those 5 roles. And I want to show you, one of them was just up here. The first one I want to show you, all on the screen, Bree Clark-Williams has just stepped in as our communications director. There's Bree right there, larger than life on the big screen. Bree is the only employee who's been with us for a couple of months. So she started the 1st of October. Bree comes to us. All of these roles have come to us as we're seeking how do we scale and grow this thing without losing the ethos of who we are as a church, the culture that God has created here as we grow and scale when we can't do things in the same way we used to do it. Bree, in case you're like, wow, she sounds so polished. Bree has extensive experience in media. She has been a news anchor. Could you see any news anchor coming out of Bree right there? She's like, I was like, Bree, you're like perfect. So she knows how to scale our communications as our church continues to grow, and thrilled that she and her husband Tyler and their 2 kids are with us. Also in the room, I mean, you're in the room, but we'll throw you on the screen anyway. Russ Dunaway, Russ, would you just stand just for me? Not because you have a great haircut only. Russ and his wife Sue have been in our church for a few years now, and they've been serving on Alpha. They serve in the Tenderloin weekly. They go and do ministry at Laguna Honda Hospital, Rehabilitation Hospital in our city. So they've been doing all that just as volunteers. Over the last nearly 20 years, Russ has been working at Chevron, and I love this part of the story. Chevron moved to Texas, and Russ is like, we feel called to stay in San Francisco. A few months ago, myself and Russ, along with Will, we began to have conversations, and we love that you're going to bring such operational excellency to what we're doing here as we seek to grow and scale, and thank you for not going to Texas. I've lost a son to Texas. I don't need to lose the Dunaways to Texas. And thirdly, I want to tell you that we have hired, he's in the room as well, Kimmy Levi as our new production director. Kimmy is a serial entrepreneur, started his first company at 14. As this role came online and we began to talk to him, we knew it would be a huge sacrifice, and he has felt called to do it. So he has walked away from being the president of the tech company he's been working at to join our team to enhance what we're doing in the building and how we send this message out around the world. So give it up for that young man right there. And the role we've been praying for the longest is our family pastor role. And in November, we made an offer, and that offer was accepted by Kendon Hackworth. There's Kendon and his wife, Maddie. So we're excited about really fun story with these 2. When you see those 3 girls, which 2 do you think are twins? I thought 2 of the 3 had to be twins. They let me know, nope, those are all 3 of our daughters, ages 1, 2, and 3. The Hackworths are moving with these 3 beautiful little girls from Springfield, Missouri. And I know you're thinking, like, Ben, that's a huge stretch to move from Springfield to San Francisco. It is, but it's the exact same place that Shauna and I moved from 15 years ago. And people are like, did you know Kendon? No, he was like 13, not in the youth group we were part of. And it's incredible. Kendon and Maddie both have extensive experience being kids pastors at a really large mega church. And they are moving in January. On Wednesday, they sent my wife, Shauna, and Lindsay Lee to scout out a house for them. 2 days later, on Friday, they texted us that they got the house. And if anybody ever look for housing, you know how to pray for miracles if you know how to look for housing in San Francisco. And so it's just incredible. So they are moving in January. Russ is starting in January. Kimmy, I think we've already brought him in. Yeah, I don't know if you're getting paid for this, but we're really glad that you've started early. We'll put that on your last company's bill till the end of the year. But guys, isn't it incredible that in September, just that recently, we said Jesus gives us this vision. He's like, the harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. So what do? You pray for more We began to pray on our knees collectively, and God has answered those prayers. And Jesus also said, good trees produce good fruit. I'm telling you, he's just brought incredible good trees by these men and women into our church family. So if more workers equals greater harvest, and good trees equals good fruit, and he's brought more good trees into our, what should we expect going in 2026? Yeah, big harvest. I think it's important, though, when we beg God for things and he gives them to us, I think it's important to pause and thank him for that. And I'd love to do that now if you'll join me. And then I'm going to get into the message. God, thank you that you have brought our current staff team who's been here a while. Thank you for bringing these 4 men and women into our mix. God, they are high character people. They have real unique expertise in specific areas that Epic needs as we move forward. God, thank you that you care about our desires. You care about our requests. And God, you know just the deep gratitude that's in my heart because you have answered beyond what I think we were praying for. So bless these men and women, their families, the move for the Hackworths. God, as people walk away from their companies and step into this organization, I pray that it would be the best job they've ever had. I pray that you would use them to bring a greater harvest in this city, the Bay Area, and throughout the world. In Jesus' name, amen. I don't know about you, but I hate waiting for almost anything. Can I get an impatient witness out there? Yeah. Same. I mean, I used to be the guy that when we were at Disneyland, I would rather ride a good ride that had a 10-minute line than wait 90 minutes for the world's best ride. Anybody? How many of you are like, no, I'll wait it out. I'm just waiting for that's funny. I'm going to ask about that. I'll just be like, no. And some of you are like, Ben, you haven't been there in a while, man. They're like, for years, there's been this thing called Lightning Lane. I know. And then I've had friends recently tell me, Ben, it gets better than Lightning Lane. You can pay for a VIP experience, and if you pay for the VIP experience, you go to the front of every line. No, seriously, they're like, it's incredible. If you have $1 billion to spend at Disney, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. I used to be the guy that would be tempted to hire mediocre staff members if they could start today. All of my former staff, not you, Will. I waited for you. But you know, the ideal thing to do is to wait for the best candidates, even if it takes 6 months or a year. Or as I like to say, in Seth Condry's case, I literally pursued him longer than I pursued my wife. But he's here with his wife, and everybody's happy. Sometimes the best things come to those who wait. But I wonder what's happened in your life, and I can let you wonder what's happened in mine when I haven't been willing to wait. When we're not willing to wait, we typically choose one of 2 options. The first one is we just give up, or the second option that most of us in this room opt into is to take matters into our own hands. I don't think most of you are giving up kinds of people. I'm guessing like me, when you're not doing it right, you're grabbing things, you're like, I'll figure it out on my own. I'll manipulate a process. I'll go do this. I'll short circuit something. I'll do whatever I have to do to stop myself from waiting. But the reality is, waiting for God's best has been normal for the people of God from the beginning of time. And when God's people have chosen not to wait on God's best, but to give up or manipulate a process, friends, this is how we get evil kings and things like a golden calf. Golden calf, we kind of throw that language around, but the reality is the reason that they made a golden calf is because they got tired of waiting on Moses. Essentially, they got tired of waiting on Moses because Moses was with God, so they were really tired of waiting on God. So what I want to do is we keep going in this Advent series, Waiting for the Morning, tagline, Surviving the Dark Nights. I want us to normalize waiting, but let me tell you what kind of waiting I do not wish to normalize for us. I do not want to normalize waiting passively. I would much prefer to normalize today waiting passionately. So here's the opening question before we get into the text. Are you waiting on God passionately or passively? Passively looks like, God, if you would just kind of do this, and then 3 days later, maybe you'll ask again, and then you just kind of, whatever happens. I don't think I need to teach us today how to wait passively. I believe that's the default for us as humans. But I think we can collectively learn what it looks like to wait passionately. And to learn that lesson, I want to take us to a text in 1 Samuel chapter 1. I want to invite you to stand. I hope you have a copy of Scripture on you. If not, you can look at the screen. In just a moment, we'll get into 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 3 through 20. But let me just give us some context. There's a man named Elkanah, and Elkanah has 2 wives. Bad idea, but not the point of the message. But I can't imagine how that could go wrong. 2 wives. One of his wives is named Peninnah, and she has children. The other wife, her name is Hannah, and she has no children. We'll pick it up in verse 3. Year after year, this man went up from his town, that's Elkanah, to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This event went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? It's a bad husband move, just to call it what it is before we go on. Once, when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. And she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, how long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Not so, my Lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Verse 17. Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. She said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Early the next morning, they arose and worshiped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. Before you sit down, I just want you to contemplate that question and maybe be making some notes today. Are you waiting? We're all waiting. Can we just be straight about that? Bigger things, smaller things, relational things, job things, financial things, housing things. Some of you, many in our church community are waiting for visa kind of things. So we're all waiting for something. The only question I want you to start contemplating is, are you kind of waiting passively off to the sidelines when it comes to your faith, or are you engaged going, God, I've got to have this. I think we can take a page out of Hannah's playbook today. Go ahead and be seated. Let's figure this out together. When we're brought into Hannah's story, her womb is closed. Her womb is closed, and this reality causes her deep pain. But to make matters even worse, she is now being shamed for her inability to bear children. Right? If it's not bad enough, she doesn't have the things she wants, and now her rival, which is interesting, which I guess that's what it would be if you have 2 wives, you've got rivals. Her rival, the other woman, is shaming her because she doesn't have the ability that the first woman has, which is to bear children. And to think about her pain and to think about her shame and the fact that Hannah keeps showing up, it really inspires me to look at her faith. Anybody else? Here's what she believed. You'll see it on the screen. She believed this: God can open what seems like it will be closed forever, and God can provide what seems like it will be lacking forever. Hannah doesn't know if she's going to get what she's asking for, but she knows the one she's asking for, it can absolutely do what she's asking him to do. So we're going to get to the place where we apply this idea of praying passionately, but you will never pray passionately or at all if you do not believe that God can do something about the situation you're longing to be different. And she believes it. And she's not just like showing up a little bit. And one of the things that I think she teaches us in this text is this. She's realizing while I'm waiting for what I long for, I can still be in the presence of God. Let me tell you how we tend to view things, even if you've never articulated. This is a great unlock for me, and as I've shared it with crowds of people or individuals, it becomes a great unlock for them. Here's how we tend to think. Just picture this with me. When we're waiting and even asking for God to do something in our future, a lot of us treat God like he's there in the future with the thing we're waiting for. Does that make sense? So like if I'm praying to God for a spouse, I begin to treat God like he's there if and only when I get the spouse or the job. And what I'm here to tell you today is she realizes even though I'm coming back year after year without my son that I'm longing for, I can still be in the house of the Lord. I can still be in the presence of God. Here's the principle, and you will see it on the screen. While we're waiting for God to move in our lives, we can experience God's presence in the present. Guys, listen to me. You might leave this room today without the thing you long for, but you do not have to leave without the presence of God. Some of you aren't yet people who are followers of Jesus. And some people have told you, if you put your faith in Jesus, you'll get all these things that you want. I'm not here to tell you that. I'm here to tell you, if you put your faith in Jesus, you will get Jesus, and he's better than all the things you want. Psalm 63:3, I believe, says, because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. And she's showing us what it looks like to believe that God can do what he's able to do. The text says she came here year after year. Year after year. Not hour after hour for a few hours, not day after day for a few days. She came here and did the same thing year after year, which means she showed up year after year, and she kept showing up with a closed womb and a belief that God could do the miracle. If we don't get what we ask God for after 3 days, we bounce, don't we? Because we become convinced that everything in life should be fast. Anybody believe that everything in life should be quick? Last night, I was taking my wife on a date night. Not a humble brag, just shooting straight with you for the sake of the story. So we were going out, and Mike, we were going out to have Japanese food. It was so good. So she's like, this is fun. We're around a lot of people Friday night that we love. We hosted a neighborhood thing, cookies and cocoa yesterday. We're going to be at church today. She was like, let's do a Waymo so it's just us. I'm with you, girl. I mean, tell me more. So I open the Waymo app. I'm coming back to 12 o'clock, right here. I open the Waymo app, and it's like, it's going to be 18 minutes and $40. I wasn't as worried about the $40, although, but the 18 minutes I couldn't spare. We had 6:30 reservations. That's telling me we're going to get there at 6:32. Anybody who's rocked with Ben Pilgreen before knows we don't get there late. So we drove, Will. But as I said there, it's still just us. It's still just us. We hate waiting. We hate waiting. We would rather take something into our own hands or settle for second place than waiting for God's best and passionately pursuing him and go, God, I need you to do this. Here's my question I want to ask you. If it took 5 years of daily prayer to get what you want most in life, would that be worth it to you? Then why did you quit after 3 days? Why did you quit after 3 weeks? Hey, why did you quit after 3 years? You're like, Ben, are you telling me I'm just telling you, a lot of times I think we bow out right before the breakthrough. Jesus in Luke 18, he ends up telling a parable to his disciples about audacious prayer and persistent prayer. But here's what Luke gives us as commentary for why Jesus told the parable. Luke 18:1, then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. Jesus wants you and I to stick with it. Stick with it. So here's a question I want to ask, and this is personal. I want to do it with as much compassion and love and gentleness as I have. What prayers have you quit praying? And by the way, I think we all have, so can we just put ourselves in a collective boat? Whose healing did you stop praying for? Which marriage did you just go, I guess it's just going to be that way? What reconciliation with a previous friendship? What have you stopped asking God to do in our city? Because it seems so far gone in that way. What were you praying for in our world that you're just like, obviously it's never going to change, so we'll just stop that. And I wonder if we might see a whole bunch of prayers resurrected in our time today. Not just for a moment today, but we're going to keep leaning in. Now, there are some prayers we should quit praying. And I don't want to be morbid here, but if you're praying for someone to be healed and they end up dying, we don't necessarily need to keep praying on and on and on for their healing. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying every prayer you've ever prayed should just be prayed throughout the rest of your earthly life. I just mean if there's still even a infantile % chance that something could be different about the situation you want to be different, let's don't give up on that. Listen, I am a product, and many of you know my story. I'm a product. The reason I'm on this stage today is because my mom didn't pray for me for 3 days. She didn't pray for me for 3 weeks. She didn't pray for me for 3 months. When I looked her in the eye and said, Mom, you can stop praying for me. I'm not going to change. Thank God she did not stop praying. And I wonder whose story is on the other side of your prayers. I wonder who in our city, for us collectively as a church, is on the other side of our prayers. It's not nobody. Jesus has made that really, really clear. Really, really clear. Now, Hannah, she's not praying passively. She's praying passionately. Let me give you a few descriptors in the text. She's in deep anguish, the text says. She's weeping bitterly. That doesn't sound passive, does it? She is deeply troubled. The text says she's pouring out her soul to God. And the text says there was something so passionate happening with her prayer life that Eli the priest believes that she is drunk. Now, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand and ask if anybody's ever accused you of being drunk while you're praying. Nor am I going to ask you if you've ever been drunk while you're praying. I'm just here to tell you that for Hannah, Eli's like, what is going on? Stop drinking. She's like, I'm not drinking. I'm just pouring out my anguish and grief to God. And again, I wonder, do your prayers sound like, oh, God, would you... Can I tell you something we all do that we need to stop? And we all do it, okay? Again, can we eliminate the word just from our prayer vocabulary? This is how I've been with you. I know. You've been with, God, would you just, God, would you just, He's God. It's not like he's got a little bit to give if we ask politely. He's God, and we should pray passionately. April 15th, 2022, I received a phone call from our broker letting me know that another company was chosen for this building. I know some of you are like, how did that work out? I called my friend John Tyson, who leads Church of the City, New York, and told him because he had put his hands on the building. And I thought, John, I thought you had the secret prayer sauce. And I was like, we didn't get it. And John is Australian, so every time whether he's texting or talking to me in person or on the phone, the word mate is the first word he always says. And here's what he said to me that day. Mate, you got to pray it back in. John, what do you mean pray it back in? We didn't get it. Pray it back in. Okay. 12 days later, April 27th, I get a call that the deal with the other company fell through. And here we are. It's been 52 weeks today that we moved into the building. I wonder what prayers you've quit praying. I wonder what even seems like it's too far gone, but maybe there's still a chance with God. And what's interesting about a season of waiting for God to do what we long for, and I'll just put it on the screen like this, in a long season of waiting, it can feel like we've been forgotten. Yeah? In a long season of waiting for the marriage to get better, the health report to improve, the sister to do this, it can feel like we've been forgotten. And you see from Hannah, she says to God, would you please remember me? Do not forget me. And how are we going to keep our confidence when we don't have what we long for, that we have a God who still has not forgotten us? I think it comes down to remembering who we are to him and who he is to us. Can I tell you how some of us treat God with the prayer stuff? We treat God like we are not in his family, and like he's a judge that might give us what we ask if we don't use too many request lines. Does that make sense? But guys, who is God to us? What title did he take? Father. Jesus said, if you, though you're an evil father, he didn't mean they were bad fathers, he just meant compared to God. If you, though you're an evil father, know how to give good gifts to your kids, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to right? we have to remember that we're sons and daughters. And I've said this example before, but there's some things that if you made a request of me, I would look at you like you're crazy. But if my kids make a request of me, I'm going to figure out a way to say yes. I want, unless it's not good for them. I love this from Isaiah on that line about forgetting. Isaiah 49, 14 through 16, but Zion said, the Lord has forsaken me, the Lord has forgotten me. Here's God's response. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, which is not likely, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me. I know there are people watching online right now, wherever you may be around the world or later on in the week or whenever it might be. I know there are people in this room, you absolutely feel forgotten. And if no one else has told you in a long time, I'm here to tell you that you absolutely have not been forgotten. He says through Isaiah the prophet, see, I've engraved you on the palm of my hands. We have something even better to look back to than the prophecy of Isaiah, don't we? Don't we have some nail-scarred hands to look back to prove to us that we haven't been forgotten? I love that. We're like, oh, Jesus, how could I forget you? I still have the scars on my hands. You haven't been forgotten. Some of you are older in the room. You feel like you've been forgotten. You haven't been forgotten by God. Some of you moved here from a country far away and you're new and you haven't made friends yet. We want you to do that here. We think it can happen in this church community. Friends, you haven't been forgotten. Like, but Ben, nobody's giving me a Christmas present. The presence of God is with you to let you know you haven't been forgotten. And then there's a principle that Hannah teaches us that you may have never considered before. I don't think I've ever taught this principle in this way, but let me give it to you straight from the text. You can dedicate something to God before you ever receive it from God. I want to camp out here for a minute, and this would be a great time to take a picture or take a note. You can dedicate something to God before you ever receive it from God. In verse 11, Hannah basically says, God, if you give him to me, I'll give him to you. Do you see it? And some of you are like, I'm not waiting on a child. Whatever you're waiting for, would you go ahead in this moment, before we leave this room, would you go ahead and dedicate the thing you're waiting on to God in case he gives it to you? You've already pre-decided and predetermined, God, you can have it. Some of you are waiting on a job. Can you make a commitment today that you will honor God with that job if he gives it to you? Some of you long to be married. You're like, Ben, are you promising me a spouse? I could make a lot of money if I could. I'm not promising you a spouse, but would you say, God, if you would give me a husband or a wife, I promise you I will dedicate my life and our marriage to serving them in a way that's honoring to you. Are you with me? The business you're wanting to start, all the things. And the problem is we compartmentalize our lives so that we decide I'll give this area to God, I'll keep this area for myself. Why don't we just go ahead and give him the whole thing? I want to make a bold claim, but I believe this with all of my heart. God is worthy of all of your life or none of it. If he's not worthy of all of it, I don't think he deserves any of it. But if you and I make the decision, God, you can have my past. Some of you, that's where you need to start. And God, you can have my present. And God, you can have my future. Well, then I'm making a pre-decision that whatever God gives me, I'm going to dedicate it to him. I love that there are friends in this room that I know plan to get married soon, and I just want to say to you, dedicate that to God. I have friends in this room that are going to have their first child soon, and I just want to say, and I know you've been doing, dedicate that child to God. There are things I'm asking God to do in and through our church in the future. Guys, let's not be tempted to make this ever about us. Let's dedicate whatever God wants to do to him. You can dedicate something to God before you ever hold it. But the likelihood, if you're not dedicating what God's already put in your hands to him, you probably aren't positioning your life to give him what he will give you in the future. But I love this from Hannah. She's like, I'm asking you to do this, not just for my own ends. If you'll give him to me, I'll give him to you. It's a beautiful, beautiful dedication moment for her. And then it happens, right? Hannah gets pregnant. Spoiler alert. She has Samuel. Why does God finally give Hannah a son? It's super complicated. Look at verse 20. She tells us, as a parent who has a child named Samuel, I love this. She named him Samuel. Are you ready? Why? Super complex. Why did she name him Samuel? Why did God answer? Because I asked the Lord for him. Hey, I know you're brilliant people in this room, but your brilliance has complicated your prayer life. My brilliance. Okay, you're like, Ben, you don't have much. Okay, the little I have, right? Because it seems too easy. Like, I'm older, I should have grown up. And we should grow up and we should mature. That is absolutely true. But I love this from Richard Foster in Celebration of Discipline. You'll see it on the screen. It's because he's like a great thinker. And he just says this: the reason God answers prayer is because... And you're like, really? That seems so simple. That's why God does it. That's why Jesus said, ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. Jesus said, ask for whatever you wish in my name. And I wonder how many of us in this room have whole big agendas in our life, and because we are not asking, there's some things we will never receive. See, a lot of us, and I get the theology part of this, a lot of us believe that whatever is going to happen is going to happen. That's just not what Scripture teaches me. I was reading yesterday, just in my own devotional time, there was a woman who wasn't a Jew, and Jesus at first told her, like, no, I'm not going to do this for you. And she's like, please. And he's like, your faith is amazing. Yes. Friends, there's a category of things you will never receive if you don't ask for it. And just let me tell you where you're never going to find me the rest of my life. You're never going to find me living over here on the other side of this line where it's said about me, he received not blank, 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 and blank because he asked not. I'm going to be asking. And I would love to raise a generation of askers today that just knock on heaven's door relentlessly. Just go after it. Will we become people who go after God with everything we have to receive everything we long for? Can we become a church who will go after God with everything we have to receive everything that we long for? When you're waiting, it's because there's a gap between what's in your hands and what you want to be in your hands. And you can fill the gap with a lot of different things, can't you? You can fill it with doubt. You can fill it with bitterness. You can fill it with despair. But I would urge all of us to fill the gap with faith. Remember in Nazareth, it said about Jesus, he could do no miracles there because of their lack of faith. And at other times, he was amazed by how present faith was in someone, and he responded to such faith. It's been said that desperate times call for desperate measures, and I get that, but maybe we come up with a new mantra today, which is this: desperate times call for desperate prayers, or desperate times call for desperate prayers. I could tell you for the next couple of hours about some desperate seasons in my own life, but I'll just tell you about the one I'm been living in the last 4 months. I was given a sabbatical for the summer. Many of you know that. That did not take desperate prayers. But I came back and clarity came pretty quickly. And what I saw in my vision, faith eyes, was this idea that God was leading our church to a greater future than what we had seen. But when I looked at the vision I thought God had for us, and I looked at what was present, there was a massive gap. Anybody know what that's like? And the massive gap was a large financial gap, and there was a large staffing gap. And I saw it with clarity. And I've got board members in this room who could tell you that I came to them on a phone call September 17th, and I just said, here's the thing. I don't have a maintenance bone in my body, but we're going to need God to do some things if we're going to move into this future. And I just began that day to hit my knees, and I'm still doing it through this morning, asking God to do these 5 words that I've been telling you about all fall. God, I need anointing, vision, wisdom, provision, people. And you guys, God has done some wild things. I'll say this. I think I've said it to Will this week. Tell me if I'm not telling the truth. I've said it to Shauna this week. In the last 14 weeks, I personally have seen more specific answers to prayer than any 14-week season in my whole life. I'm not going to let you read my journal today, but if you could read my journal, you would see things I've been praying for daily. And there's things I'm praying for right now that I have not gotten yet. You would see these staff members I've told you about to begin the sermon, you'll see their position, and then when we started interviewing them, their names. God, I know this is gonna take a miracle, but would you do this? You would see me praying for a specific company to offer my oldest son a job. You would see that over and over and over and over. I get out of staff meeting this past Tuesday. I'm sitting at my desk above us here, and my son, who never FaceTimes me. Like, this is really great or really terrible. And I was like, hey, he started talking in ways like, man, we got to get mom on the line. You don't want to say this twice. So we do the three-way thing. And he lets us know that the company that I've had in my journal for a long time, they offered him a job. And not only that, they want him to start sooner than he thought. Friday, when Kendon and Maddie sent the text about getting housing, I could show you, ever since we offered them the job and they accepted a month ago, I could take you through that over and over again. And maybe it would be fair to say, Ben, if you hadn't had those answers to prayer yet, what would that do to your faith? Sometimes I'm like you, it's not always as high as it is at other times. In those seasons, I need to borrow the faith of other people. You ever had to do that? I need people that I can call, and you need people you can call to go, hey, would you help me believe that God can do this? I think about that man in the Bible. He said to Jesus, I believe, help my unbelief. Fill up the gap. And so here's what we're gonna do for fun this afternoon. We're going to turn this room into a waiting room. How's that sound? And some of you are like, as long as it's a passive waiting room and I can just keep doing this. Nah. We're going to turn it into a passionate waiting room. Worship team, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and come on stage. I'm going to ask all of us to stand together. What I want to do in these next 10 minutes or so is demonstrate what you can do on a daily basis. So friends, this altar is wide open right here, just this kneeling carpet below the stage. We've got men and women to the right and left that are ready to pray with us today. And some of us, let me just tell you what some of us do right now. One of the reasons we're passive with our faith, a number of us in this room, is because we don't know what other people are gonna think about us. Listen really closely. If Hannah would have cared about what Eli thought about how she looked, what would she have done? Maybe stop praying passionately. And what would she have lost? Maybe Samuel. Hey, Ben, what do you mean? How can you say that? Because she went after God with all her heart, and God responded. So here's what's gonna happen if we follow the Spirit's promptings in the next few minutes. Some of you are going to have the prayers you quit praying resurrected, and you're gonna get back on your knees and go, God, would you change my dad's life? Would you heal that marriage? Would you heal that body? Others of you are going to realize that you have a Father in heaven who loves to hear requests from his children. Others of you, I think you're gonna pray for each other, even where you stand, or that we've got a team ready to pray with you to my right and left. I just have this sense that some of us, our trajectory right now is ending up at a place where we received not because we asked not. And I get it. I understand the self-protection technique as well as anybody in this room. You're like, Ben, but if I put myself out there with God, what if he never does it and I end up disappointed? That could happen. But remember, even if you don't get the thing, you're gonna get a God who's better than the thing. And I think there's a really good chance you're gonna see a Father in heaven as we knock on his door. Doors are gonna swing open. And I think that chance, because of who he is and what he can do, that's worth going after. So this altar's open. Let me pray for us. God, I ask that you would turn this room into a passionate waiting room who goes after you and contends for what we wanna see you do. God, no more are we gonna be in the camp of people who have not because they ask not. If we have not, maybe, but it won't be because we ask not. God, I believe there are prayers that we quit praying for family members, and I'm asking you to resurrect. God, I believe that we quit praying for some marriages that we're gonna start asking. God, we thought that someone's addiction was so far gone that we stopped asking you for their freedom, and we're gonna get back to that now. God, there are visa situations around this room, and you know them intimately. God, we're gonna contend for those. God, we're not going to say, oh, you know what? Our church has grown to this size and we shouldn't ask God for more. God, we're grateful for what you've done, but we know there's an entire Bay Area to reach with the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're asking for more. We love the staff and leaders that we have here. We're asking for more. Church, it's time to contend like we have a Father in heaven who has all authority. Let's go after him with everything we have to receive everything that we long for. People are ready to pray with you. This altar's open. Lead us, Seth.